Okay, roll call and declaration of conflicts of interest.
Councilmember Abram?
Here, and I do have a conflict of interest with 7G of the consent calendar.
Thank you. Councilmember Vixel?
Here and none.
Vice Mayor Moniz?
Here and none.
Councilmember Phillips?
Here and none.
Mayor Bublak?
Here and none. Okay, approval of agenda as posted or amended.
Motion to approve the agenda with the amendment of moving 11 behind item number 5.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel? Vice Mayor Moniz?
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes with a 5-0. All right, and now we have proclamation presentation, actually, with the fire department, and we're starting with the money man.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council members. The presentation I have for you today is an extension of a conversation we'll have at a future date of the discussion of the Fire Modesto administrative contract. So what we'll do is kind of go through the options eventually we're talking about, giving some kind of a synopsis and overview of what's being proposed. Currently being proposed, there's multiple scenarios. 2 of the services you'll see today are currently proposed and given a little description because they're currently assisting with us today with those. So we want to give an overview of what a potential new contract would look like as far as an amendment as well as an extension as well. So some of the topics we'll go through a little bit of the history just to kind of bring us back to the beginning and what the overall intent is. Contract extension and what that language looks like within the current contract. Proposed new services, EMS division services, fire marshal, and we'll look at the financial impact of what those look like. So contract history. In January 25th of 2022, the city of Turlock with the city of Modesto executed a contract for 4 years to create an overall entity that established a fire administration for the city of Turlock, which then grew into what we now call today the MTC. So some of the benefits of this overall contract were basically around regionalization of the overall entity in our county. A single fire chief will lead and manage the overall multiple municipalities, full access city Modesto support staff, streamlining development, supporting programs and specialized services, as well as an assistant chief being located here at the city of Turlock to oversee day-to-day activities. So at the point in which this was executed, this is basically what your org chart looked like. This came straight out of the budget book for the fiscal year of 21-22. But after this activity and current day, this is now what the current org chart looks like. So you can see from the depth of what this came in and bloomed into is really overall what we tried to accomplish. Getting some depth behind additional services and resources that are now available to the city of Turlock to continue regionalization, as well as continue to talk about additional services that may be done in the future. Contract extension. So as language within the contract currently states, an agreement as far as the extension doesn't necessarily have to be executed by July 30th of 2025, but it does have to be communicated between the both parties that in writing that we will negotiate in good faith to move forward with the potential of an extension of the contract. This language is there really to have a point in time in which this contract is going to conclude. Obviously, with the commitments the city of Modesto is making, they need to be able to unwind if it's not a service that we want to move forward with. So we're moving in good faith to be able to discuss what that looks like. New services potentially proposed. So before we get into the full scope, there's about 6 different scenarios that we're looking at. Again, these are proposed because they're currently duties that we're already taking on. So it kind of makes sense to kind of flush these out a little bit of what it potentially may look like in the future. So one is proposed as the fire marshal. So that will equate to 1 individual. Currently, we do have a fire marshal budgeted. However, the position is unfilled, hence the need of filling the position or assisting. Fiscal impact. So you do have a budget marshal at a full rate. The billing structure would be at 75%. Basically, the intent of this is you're having an economic impact where you're seeing a benefit where you're only billing at that rate structure, but it's because we're able to balance their resources to be able to assist in how it all flushes out. So you're not having to pay for a full fire marshal, but you're getting the resources of an overall fire marshal. So notable comments through this structure, again, the 75%, and just the depth of the overall bench the city of Modesto has. City of Turlock will be able to maintain services. So we already have a fire inspector, right? So we have some of these preventative measures which kind of come together and how that's all going to flush out. So we want to make sure that the scope of work, which you're about to see, kind of entails how we envision on both sides because there are different impacts on how it impacts the community as well as economic development. So the duties of the fire marshal were posed. Again, this is a draft format. So oversee plan and administrations, fire inspection, oversee and direction. A lot of this comes down to making sure we're doing state mandated processes, reporting and things of that nature. Plan check review as far as being able to talk to developers, what it looks like, and overseeing the plan check review from certain staff. A supporting general plan, as well as specific plan development. Another big thing that's actually going to come up here shortly, I believe, is the fire code change. I think it comes up here within the next year or so. So that's going to be a big task that we need to develop to make sure we stay up to code. And also hazardous mitigation. So the next one is EMS services. Right now, this is one of the things they are assisting us with too as well. The benefit of this is you're going to see within the scope of work and really what you're getting as far as what comes entailed with the city of Modesto. So the proposal quantity is 3, although you're not going to get a full bill out of what that looks like. So historically, staff has been taking this on, but you can see from the scope of work that the amount of depth that is needed to be able to manage this properly has expanded in the current years and going forward. So what you'll see is they'll be billing us at a 13% factor for those 3 individuals. Scope of work. So first one, obviously, going to be the personnel, the 3 individuals. So you see an EMS division chief. You also see clerical staff as well as QA and IA assistants from individuals. The big one from this scope of work is really going to be the medical oversight. So you're seeing that you're going to be obtaining a Modesto alignment as far as a medical individual for an EMS medical director. So that's really critical on what we're achieving. So trying to accomplish that within our current budget would be difficult for us. So why I'm here today? The money. So there are economic benefits on both sides. I will stipulate that it's not all about finances all the time, right? There is also operational needs and what that looks like. But we also want to make sure we're getting what we're paying for to make sure financially we are stable. So you see a financial impact just looking at the scope of services in which we entailed. So stay status quo with the chief, as well as adding 2 additional services. So for the fiscal year 25-26, you still see a savings overall. Not a large amount, but still there. Again, still getting the savings from the chief that's already been impacted due to the contract. So in the next years, that's actually the extension years. So for the fiscal year 26-27, you do see a substantial savings of $39,000. You do get an increase in the next year, but that's really just due to MOU increases from the Modesto side. So there is savings overall from the term of the contract with potential of these additional services. Next step. Next step is continued negotiation of what these scopes of work look like. Again, these are draft formats. Nothing has been finalized. No, we are not making a presentation as far as these are the services we're moving forward with. This is really to get the information in front of you. Council's been talking about this for some time now, so we want to make sure that we have that information for you. That concludes my presentations. Is there any questions?
Questions?
I have a question regarding the deputy fire marshal position, and maybe this is more for our Modesto colleagues, but is that a position that's currently filled in the Modesto, the MST side of things?
I can assist with that. So they do currently have fire marshals that are positions that are filled. They do think of bringing on another individual at a later date, but they have an individual they can assign to us as of today. And please don't misstating, say so.
I know in years past, we had a full-time fire marshal here in town. I mean, so I guess, like 100% employee versus 75%. Why do we not need the full-time person?
It's not that we don't need a full-time individual. I think it's really more of a resource sharing. So the depth of the individual being here for a portion of time, which still be a large allotment, we can now shift resources if additional resources are needed. So for example, if something occurs on a Friday, we need a fire marshal, they have the depth in their bench to be able to pull from other resources. So it's not just dedicating one individual, although one individual may or may not be assigned. Primarily, it's being able to balance the overall. In addition to that, we still have some additional services that are being done internally. A big chunk of that is going to be a plans review, which is being done by retired Newton, and some outsourced. So it's being able to balance all our resources to be able to have a good overall operational plan.
Any other questions? Question? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, now this is time set aside for the public and to address matters that are not listed on the agenda and within our subject matter.
I moved the city
She goes
manager.
after public participation.
Oh, okay.
Is that all right? No. So she can answer public
Okay, sorry.
participation. Okay. Anyway, this, any items that are on, we'd ask you to move to that item. Otherwise, anything is within our subject jurisdiction, and you have 3 hours. Wow.
That's cute.
It has been a long day. 3 minutes, and that timer's there. I have only like 2 cards, so I will start with Milt.
Good evening, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen, Milt Treeweiler. I recently heard a good explanation of the difference between a child and an adult. A child says, what can you do for me? An adult says, what can I do for you? When I speak, I'm speaking for the children and descendants, since they're too young to speak for themselves, they haven't been born yet. As you're aware of, Gen X is crashing out. The term crashing out has been circulated online for some time now. Social media has popularized the term, with Gen Z using it regularly to express severe emotional distress. About a third of those born between 1997 and 2012 suffer from mental health issues, with 1 in 3 of these taking prescription medications for it. The top diagnosed medical health conditions are anxiety, depression, and ADHD. 34% of Gen Z takes prescription medication and 19% self-medicate. This is not a good thing. Elon Musk, who is the richest man in the world, has a drug problem. This shows us that any person can become dependent on drugs, regardless of who they are. Being dependent on drugs is not just a sickness found in the homeless population. A citywide survey was sent out to Turlock citizens about a year and a half ago. A large number of citizens responded to the survey, and a large majority wanted Turlock to remain a small city. Turlock people like our city the size it is today. They also stated they'd like to see 4- and 5-story condos and apartment buildings on West Main Street, Lander Avenue, and Golden State Boulevard. There's not 1 acre of farmland in some entire states and even countries as good as the farmland north of Taylor Road, just to the north of Turlock. This farmland can grow food for hundreds of years because of the soils in this location and the water we have here and the climate we have in our county. There is an abundance of poor soils and wastelands in California and our nation for the developers to build houses on, like the Altamont Pass area, the area east of Oakdale. There's also a large landmass area west of Patterson along Interstate 5 and in the Fairfield area along Highway 12. We also have the entire states of Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and New Mexico for the developers to build houses on. We do not want to use up the resources that will be needed for our children and future generations. We, as our children's ancestors, must work together to preserve the best farmland in the world that we have here just to the north of Turlock. By working together, our children and descendants will look back and thank us for stopping the sprawl of Turlock. This is our primary responsibility as adults. We must take care of our children and descendants. That's why we're here. That is our responsibility, and we need to take care of them. Until we die, we should be preparing for the children, our children, and descendants. Thank you.
Ann Strom?
Sure you don't want to give me 3 hours?
Well, I think maybe next time.
Thank you very much. There are 2 people sitting on this dais whose origin stories are that of childhood homelessness and of the necessity of becoming an emancipated minor. These origin stories include narratives about coming from want and misery. I am wondering if those origin stories might be, as they colloquially call it, fake news. Because what I see right now in some of the people sitting on this dais who say they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps are people who then use those new shiny boots to kick down everyone else who suffers a similar fate. I doubt anyone who actually suffered homelessness and being forced from one's home and family would ever behave in such a diabolical fashion towards others living in similar fates. I am hopeful that the state will actually investigate what you have done to the We Care facility and use their levers of power to ensure a minimum of decency and humanity is returned to this community and that this community is restored. Thank you.
I have no other cards. Does anybody else have anything?
My name is Daniel Miller, and I come to speak about the favorite topic of Mayor Bublak, Vice Mayor Moniz, and Councilmember Phillips, the homeless. I have looked at the City of Turlock's website to educate myself about the city's approach to addressing homelessness. I quote, "The City of Turlock views homelessness as one of the top priorities and is working on several approaches, including both short-term and long-term solutions. This page will include general information and ongoing updates to keep citizens informed, and we appreciate your participation and understanding as we identify solutions and strategies to ensure the best path forward." End quote. Not a lot of specifics there, folks. Interestingly, the last posting on the city's website about the homeless was from September-October of 2022. And that was a presentation from Chief Hedden about the police department's response. It does not appear that the City Council has any plan or strategy on homelessness, nor a process to get one, other than shallow, superficial council discussions, poorly thought out demands, and knee-jerk responses and decisions when extortion doesn't work. I read Mayor Bublak's public responses to Governor Newsom's comments about homelessness in Turlock. They were just more of the defensive, conspiratorial thinking and fallback positions of attempting to blame others and it's not the city's responsibility that we unfortunately have come to expect from the mayor. I've also read with great interest the letter sent by the California Department of Housing and Community Development to the city. Well, Turlock's entire housing plan has been out of compliance since December 2023. Who knew? And the city faces potential stiff fines, lawsuits, and loss of state funding for affordable housing. Great job. And the mayor's response? More defensiveness and a sense of being persecuted. You reap what you sow. Quote, "We're working on it," end quote. Who's working on it? What is the community's input and oversight to that work? Where are the public meetings to discuss the issues and options? Quote, "We will get it done." When? The city of Turlock deserves better leadership than this.
Anybody else? Don?
Shorter. Good evening. Accountability is a word that can be differentiated by who is using that word. I have heard our mayor use accountable when describing the We Care program, which she deems not meeting her personal standards. Why haven't we heard accountable used in connection to the taxpayers' request for a downtown bathroom for the last decade or so until the April 2nd meeting when the council voted down the acceptance of a grant because of the lack of a bathroom? Why isn't the city council accountable for creating their own plan for funding said bathroom? This is the same We Care found accountable by the county who wished to continue funding the shelter program because of the unmet needs in Turlock. Why hasn't the city council representing the interests of our city been accountable as they have been out of compliance with the state laws since December 31st, 2023? Why wasn't this information available to the public? Was it to hide accountability? Lastly, when the state does decide to delay state funding, implement additional financial and legal ramifications, or institute penalties of between $10,000 and $100,000 per month, will the city council pay the fine? Will you be accountable? You have put the citizens of Turlock in a terrible predicament. Multiple organizations and individuals have worked hard to help those in need, and now we will all be punished by your inability to govern and follow state laws. Thank you.
Anyone else? No one else? Yeah, Ron. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're next.
Good evening. I may have missed it. I don't remember seeing in the survey that was sent out about housing, asking people if they wanted five-story apartment buildings. I may have missed that. I will remind the audience that I believe it was October of last year, there was a discussion when Gary Hampton was sitting in that seat with Turlock Gospel Mission about restrooms, and they were talking about the difficulty of modifying the day center to be able to do that. Gary talked about how the county had money that they wanted to spend, and that he had directed Adrian Werner, Director Warner, to start looking into advanced planning for something like that. When it comes to the housing element being late, okay, I can tell you why. All the problems that we had with the housing department. You know, if someone read the grand jury report, they would have seen that we had very significant problems with the housing department, and I laid them at the feet of Marin Pitt. Okay, so the housing department was in shambles. You had to bring in Gary Hampton and Jennifer to clean it up, and in the process, things that needed to get done didn't get done. Okay, it wasn't hid. A lot of us knew about it. A lot of us who pay attention to what's going on knew about it. Now, I want to refer back to the June 19th HCD letter that talked about a 92.6% increase in homelessness in the past 5 years. Any reasonable person who looks at that would say, yikes, that is not acceptable, and that we need to step back and take a holistic look at everything. And that's exactly what the grand jury of 2020 and 2021 did. And their report, number one, said that we need to do more in terms of preventing homelessness. And I referred to the $80,000 that was spent for mortgage, rental, and utility assistance that I was told helped 18 households and 56 individuals stay out of homelessness. And so I asked, are we still funding that program? Because if we're not, we should. And then the other thing that they talked about is how you need transparency and accountability. You cannot judge these programs based upon good intentions. They need to be based upon results. And, well, my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you want to speak? Did you want to speak? Yes, sir. Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to get up. All right, no one else? We will close the public comment and move on to your comments. What's wrong? Go ahead. You're going to do your comments now?
Good evening. A couple things that I want to mention. One, I want to introduce, and last week, 2 weeks ago, most people were gone by the time we got to my comments. Deputy Chief Shannon Evans is sitting here. Was yesterday your first day? Here. last Monday. He has been with Modesto for the last 27 years and will be serving here as the chief in Turlock. He also has overseen the Westport Fire District Department for a number of years, and we've been in a couple meetings and pleased to have him here and begin some work with him going forward. The second thing is I'm going to make some comments just about the HCD letter because I think there's a lot of interest. I had a conversation with David Zisser, two staff members, and the lawyer that has helped us in housing just before the holiday to respond to the letter that was sent to us. Our question was, were they looking for the full report by the 3rd? Were they looking for a timeline? And he was clear with us that the issue with the letter is really largely related to zoning efforts. That's what the HCD letter is largely addressing. And yes, there are programs related to homelessness in that letter. I just think it's important for you to know that we're not at risk right now of being fined. We haven't been threatened with any fines. Our report was turned in January of 2025. We got the first response back in April from the state with about 40 items that needed to be addressed, and we've done the first bulk of those and sent them in, and we'll be responding to those every week for the next 3 weeks, I think it is. So I just wanted to put that out there because that's one piece of context related to the HCD letter. HCD, I mean, where we got, where it's a little difficult with staff is the HCD letter, we've been working with the HCD staff member on our report since 2023. And so we were a little surprised when we got the letter because it came from the people overseeing the people we've been working with. But I just wanted to assure you as the public that staff is working on that letter and those responses and let you know that. And then I know it's been a crazy busy time in the last couple of weeks since our last meeting, and just always want to say thanks to the staff who are keeping the trains running on time here, and appreciate their efforts.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to consent calendar. We're going to have a green sheet added to item D, David, and that one will be pulled for the 1-minute conversation. I'm sorry. No, just green sheet. So F and G are both being pulled for both request of public and an opting out of. Okay.
So motion to approve the consent calendar as amended and minus items F and item G.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll on all those?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moniz?
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes. Passes 5-0. Okay. What happened? Sue, oh, your light's on. So item F, go ahead and come up for your 1 minute and explain your questionings. And who, Mr. Morris, you're in charge of this one?
Okay, I looked at
Wait.
this
Go ahead. I'm
and I noticed that that we have an expense here that's $4,585,000, leaving us a deficit of $1,887,886. In other words, we haven't got the funds to do this project. So how can you approve a project when you don't have the funding to complete it? I'd just like to understand that, and that was my major question. How can we do this? Everything else, when you bring it on the consent calendar, we've got the funds right there to do it. Here, we're showing this as not having the funds to do this. So how can you do this? Also, I noticed on the breakdown that it says the county supervisor and state senator is going to donate money. It doesn't say how much they're donating. Are they donating $1,000 or $100,000? They're not stating. It's way wide open. It's like you can laundry Monday here. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
I've written your emails, but I'll mention it again. Mr. Birdsong, when I put up this information on Save Turlock, made a comment about might there be a possibility for mural artists. And I remember way back when we did things at Westside in preparation for this Prop 68 stuff, that there was a lot of interest in that, okay? As a matter of fact, I remember that they were talking about having a wall that would be a mural that would change, was it every month or every quarter or something like that, to give local artists possibility of stuff. And then I also wondered about the possibility of putting like a simple shade structure in one of the existing grass areas for people to gather to play music or cards or paint or things like that. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank
Anyone else on this subject? Montana Park. Okay, we'll close public comment. Can you speak to either of those, Mr. Morris?
Well, the item is just, it's an advertisement for bid. So we're interested to see what the construction costs do come back as. And then from there, we can evaluate the funding situation.
Correct. And that will or will not include shade, overhangs and things of that nature?
Actually, Mayor, I actually just sent Mr. Bridegroom's email to staff, but it was not to Mr. Morris. We're looking into that.
Okay, so the answer is maybe, possibly.
I'm
Okay.
not sure about the shade structures. I know we're adding, one restroom, and then lights. There's different options that we can lower the price to get it built. But I don't remember a shade structure per se.
There's not.
Yeah.
We're looking at it.
Question? Okay, what's the will?
Motion to approve item F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram. Yes. Councilmember Bixel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moniz.
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Mayor Bublak.
Yes, passes on 5-0. Thank you. And at this point,
I have a conflict with 7G as I own property on Marion Drive within 500 feet of this project.
all right, we'll open it to the public.
Okay, again, talking about this, you gave a partial answer to this. In other words, this is going out to bid. So this is going to come back to the council. It's going to be approved another time and the money's going to be approved. You're not approving the money on this, you're just approving the bid portion of this?
Yes. Just to go out to get prices, yes.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we will close the public comment and bring it back.
Motion to approve the motion that states authorizing staff to proceed with the advertisement for a construction bid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Bixel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moniz.
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips.
Yes.
Mayor Bublak.
Yes, passes on a 4-0 with one abstaining. And can we make sure we get our council member back? There are no final readings. 9A, public hearings, is Victoria Estates Landscaping. Mr. Morris, you're back. You never even left. Pardon?
Good evening. 9A is the dissolution of the Victoria Estates Landscaping Lighting District Street Maintenance. So back in 2006, it got created as a subdivision. And at that time, we started assessing the first year assessments. And then, of course, what happened in 2006, 7, 8, recession. So at that time, 2011, he reverted back to acreage. So it went away, but yet we still had funds that we had collected in this account. So currently, they're coming in with Monarch Estates, so they're coming back with the subdivision, and now they're gonna be joining CFD3. So the first is to get them out of the other Victoria Estates Lighting and Landscape District, and then refund the money that we collected, because there was no improvements ever installed, and then as they join CFD3 in the near future.
Questions? Okay, we'll open it to the public.
This to me doesn't appear to be completely clear. You don't specify where the property is. I mean, I did look it up online. I located the location, but there's a development that's been approved in that area. So it doesn't say whether it's just the very corner lot or it includes all of the development. And you don't specify how much money has been collected. It says it's being collected on an annual basis, yet are you saying over all the period of time you've only collected the $23,000? That doesn't quite make sense because it should be more than that, I would think, for a development like this. And so I have those questions. I would like to see, and it says you do have the mapping for this, and it is available in the Office of the City Engineer, so I'd like to look at this maybe sometime this week and see what it looks like. I just don't quite understand this, why it's such a small amount, or how much is the amount that these people are getting returned? I mean, exactly how much will they be returned, and how come they only paid that much if they've been paying so much?
Well, they weren't, well, go ahead and let you finish your.
Right. And again, the other thing is, how much land does this involve? Just that one lot in the very corner, or all the new lot that's being used for new construction? Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Okay, we will close public comment. Will you answer the question, sir?
Sure. We typically don't, we take in the first year assessment when they come in to the lighting district. And then as improvements get done, then we start collecting. So there shouldn't be a lot amount in there. There shouldn't be really 23,000 in there. But that's how much was collected. We did stop because he never went through with the improvements and never built anything, so we're collecting money and not paying anything. So for the streetlights. It's the property, right on the corner of Golden State Boulevard and Roberts is commercial. And if you head east, 200, 300 feet, there's a lot that's residential. And Victoria Estates and Monarch Estates, same, 16 lots, same cul-de-sac design, same layout. But yes, I can show you a map, no problem.
All right, questions? All right, there are two resolutions.
Motion to approve both of them, wait, yes.
Okay,
Motion to approve both. Sorry.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moniz?
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Morris. Item B is an introduction and first reading of an ordinance repealing and replacing, but actually, is it that, Mr. Bejelantis?
It is that and much more.
Oh, wonderful.
This is basically updating the city's regulation of vendors, both door-to-door vendors and sidewalk vendors. In recent years, the California legislature adopted Senate Bill 946 that really the state preempted local regulation of sidewalk vending and made a lot of rules that you have to follow. The Turlock Police Department asked that we update the vending program. And so what we've done is we've lifted out the rules and regulations for sidewalk vending into a standalone resolution. The bill allowed the program to be adopted by ordinance or resolution. We opted for a resolution for now because the state is considering yet more legislation that would provide yet more protections for this class of person in this business. So we didn't want to put it in the municipal code yet, so we're going to wait to see if that bill passes. We have a look-back provision. We'll come back to you within the next year, probably putting it into the municipal code where I think it's more properly located for public notice and other reasons. So really what you have here, you have a standalone resolution that follows all the rules outlined by the state government in this regulating this kind of business. And then we do simple revisions to the existing provisions of the municipal code where we take out all references to sidewalk vending. And so and we're retitling it from vendors to itinerant vendors because that will only regulate door-to-door vendors, which have been one of these historical areas of regulation. And so that's really That's really staying the same. So it does a lot of things. The resolution creates a permitting system. It has some locations, and like you have to provide proof of liability insurance, health permits if needed, a state seller's permit if that's applicable. It has some prohibited vending locations in there. Simple safety things like within 15 feet of driveways and crosswalks and fire hydrants. We did also include prohibitions in the immediate vicinity of special events like your farmer's market, things like that, and also a prohibition within 500 feet of schools, basically during school hours, approximately during school hours. There's a lot of operational standards in there also that I can give some details of if you like. Kind of interestingly, in residential areas, stationary vendors are prohibited, but roaming vendors are allowed, like the old snow cone man that I remember, snow cone person, I guess, these days, but it was a snow cone man when I was young. I remember strawberry cherry had a little jingle. That was very nice. Still in my brain, so for some reason. Yeah, it was effective marketing. So that's what we're doing tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Your preference, cherry or strawberry?
Cherry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions for?
You alluded to this a little bit, that, resolutions are not as publicly accessible than when it's in the municipal code. So how will people find out about these new restrictions? Is that more in the permitting side of things, or?
Yes, it'll be in the permitting.
Okay.
We'll fully explain it. I assume we'll do some social media and things like that. I'm sure the department will ramp up with an educational program since we've kind of been out of this business for a while, I think, so.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll open it to the public. Anyone wishing to be a vendor, come on up.
I should have said before, you can come up, because I have control about you coming up. So yeah, come up. But anyway, the part that will remain in the municipal code is for the door-to-door vending. So that's a first reading and introduction of that ordinance. The resolution will be passed tonight separately, from that. So go ahead.
You want to press your button?
What's that?
Want to press that button?
Yeah.
Okay, you're on now.
I
It's all
think-
you run.
I think you may have just answered my question because I saw both an ordinance and a resolution, so,
Okay.
thank you.
See, if we let them ramble, eventually we'll understand.
I should have just sat there.
Ramble, I would call it prescient, but if you want to use ramble, that's okay.
Anything else? Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public comment and bring it back.
Motion to approve the ordinance and the resolution.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please. What happened now? No, he's rambling, isn't he? We have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Abram? Yes. Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moniz?
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Petrolakis. Item 10A is actually, there's a green sheet, there was a bullet point that was left off the resolution, so note to self, make sure we see that. And, Ms. Figueroa, good evening.
Working hard.
Usually you stay till like 10 or something to do your stuff.
She's gonna hang out after.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
So good evening, Mayor and members of council. The item before you is the adoption of the updated first-time homebuyer policies and procedures. Currently, the Housing Division administers a first-time homebuyer program. However, due to current housing prices, interest rates, and wages, the program has not been effective in recent years. Staff reviewed the existing policies and procedures and recommend the following updates. Do I just click it? Oh, okay. So the first thing is the loan term. Currently, the loan term is for 30 years at a 3% simple interest. The proposal is to do 0% for the first 15 years and then 2% interest for the remaining 15 years. What we're hoping to do is incentivize the first-time homebuyers to pay off their loan early instead of having that big deferred balloon payment at the end. The front-end ratio, which is the percentage of the borrower's gross monthly income that goes towards housing expenses. Currently, it's at a maximum of 35%, and the proposal is to do it as a minimum of 35%. Part of the reason for this is basically your back end ratio, this gives the homeowner or the potential homeowner more room. For example, let's say you have someone who, again, they're lower income. So currently the way it is, if their housing price, if their new payment is 35% or 36%, they don't qualify. We have a lot of potential home buyers that actually have really good credit. So maybe their housing prices are at 36 or 37%, but their back end ratio with all their bills is at 40%. So they actually can afford more home. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that. The back end ratio, which is the borrower's gross monthly income, the percentage of the borrower's gross monthly income that goes to committed outstanding debt, including housing costs, is currently at a maximum of 38%. We're proposing to do it to a maximum of 46%. Again, letting people have more room to be able to buy a home. We spoke to a couple of lenders. They're actually going up to 50%, some of the primary loan. Currently, and this is the item that was left out of the resolution, the borrow contribution's $3,000. We're proposing to increase that $5,000 with an increased, as you'll see from the loan amount. Currently, it's 4% of the purchase price up to $50,000. We're proposing to go up to $100,000 in the gap financing. And I have an example here of what gap financing is. So for example, if you have a home that the purchase price is $400,000, if the borrower can qualify, let's say their primary loan through a bank is $325,000, less their $5,000, the gap, quote unquote, needed would be $70,000 plus closing costs of estimated of $16,000. So we would loan them a total of $86,000, not a flat amount of $100,000. Some of the other proposed updates, permanent local housing allocation, PLHA, we have an allocation for that, and some of that is going to first-time homebuyers, so we added regulations to clarify that. We also added some verbiage for our home funding section regarding property standards, and there were some updated regulations. And then also just various spelling and grammar updates. We added some verbiage for clarification and removed irrelevant language. So staff is requesting approval of the updated first-time homebuyer policies and procedures with the amended resolution provided with the green sheet. That concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Questions? The percentages and everything, that's through HUD, correct?
Oh, the back and the front end?
Yeah.
Those are actually, you can create your own program.
Okay.
So looking at it, like I said before, a lot of our home buyers, they're lower income. So 35% is a very easy target to meet. With the housing prices, what we have found is most of the lenders will match that 35%. So if someone comes in at 32%, they will raise their, that's why it's called gap financing. So their primary loan would come in to make up that difference of the percentage, and we would loan them less.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, open to the public. Bill?
I'm sorry I didn't have time to look this up completely. So how much money do we have in this fund? How many $100,000 loans can we give? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What do we have in this fund? Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Ron?
Yeah, I had that question also. I seem to remember the list of the housing funds, the $20 million that we have available. The presentation that, I forget his name, he was here for a while, he came from the county, he was, yes, thank you very much. He gave a presentation, and I didn't have a chance to look at it, but isn't there additional programs in there that we can use for first-time home buyer programs? And you have a minimum of 35%. I mean, what if someone comes in and they're 34%, they got a little bit more income? I mean, would that knock them out? Or I understand why you're raising, okay, that makes sense, but it's kind of like you're putting a floor in there that might cut out some people who have, make $1,000 a year more than the minimum or something like that. So that's my question.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, we will close the public comment. Can you speak to those questions?
Absolutely. So as you see from our monthly housing program funds, we do have quite a bit. We have like 1.6 in Cal Home, which is old program income from funds we got quite a while ago. We have over $1 million in State Home. We also have some home funds that we need to spend down. So currently, we're not funding any first-time home buyer loans because nobody's able to qualify. So the goal is to, how do I say, try this? Like, how do we get this program up and running? So staff came together, we talked, did some brainstorming, and we came up with this with the intent that, let's say in 9 months, we come back to say, hey, this is working. We've done 5, or no, this isn't working. We still have, because we're getting calls, of course, about the first-time home buyer, and with the price of houses and the wages, it's just, trying to make it viable. So we do have funds, that is correct. Ron, to your question, so the reason we went, it used to be a maximum of 35% on the front end. So what that was doing is if someone came in and they were at 36%, which a lot of the community at this wage level they're at that. If they're at 36%, they're out. Putting the minimum actually opens it up and pushes it back to the back end, because your back end is all your bills. So if you come in and your housing cost is 37%, but you're really good with your money, you pay your bills every month, and with all of your bills, you're at 40%, you still can afford that house. So it was more to open up that window. Most lenders will actually work with us. So if you come in and you say, I have a program with City of Turlock, it's up to a down payment assistance. If they have to go up to 35%, a lot of times the lenders, because they're a little more lenient, so to speak, they actually will cover that. So if you come in at 34%, a lot of them will give you that little bit of extra funding to put you at 35%, which means the city would give you less, if that answers your question. Okay.
Comments, thoughts?
Motion to approve 10A.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Pixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moniz?
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes on 5-0. We have another one for you.
Mm-hmm. You ready? No, I'm good. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. The item before you requests authorization for the interim city manager to sign for first-time home buyer and housing rehabilitation loans in amounts up to $100,000. The Housing Division administers a first-time homebuyer program, which provides down payment assistance to income-eligible applicants, and a housing rehabilitation program, which offers low-interest loans to income-qualified homeowners to preserve and improve housing conditions. All loans are submitted to the loan committee for review and approval. Once approved, the city manager is authorized to execute all necessary documents to execute the loan up to $100,000. The current interim city manager is authorized to enter into contracts up to $25,000. This presents potential challenges for the administration of these programs. For the first-time home buyer loan, applicants must secure a loan with a locked interest rate, which is typically valid for 30 days. If the approval for the city loan is delayed and the terms of the primary loan change, the city loan would need to be reprocessed. This could result in the potential home buyer losing the opportunity to purchase their desired property. For a housing rehabilitation program, contractor bids are valid for 90 days. A delay in the approval process could cause the bid to expire, resulting in the bid process starting over, leading to increased costs and inefficiencies. In addition, both programs must comply with regulations protecting personally identifiable information, or PII. As a result, any loan documents presented to City Council for consideration must exclude personal details about the applicants. So only general information, like the loan amount and project scope, could be presented. Due to the limited turnaround time required for these programs and to ensure the protection of applicants' personal information, staff are requesting that the interim city manager be authorized to execute first-time homebuyer and housing rehabilitation loans in amounts up to $100,000. That concludes my presentation.
Questions? Okay, open it to the public. Ron?
I'm gonna have to change my name back to me again.
Oh, Lord.
I apologize. I'm an engineer, so I'm curious. So I've had this question in my mind for quite a long time. what is the difference between the city manager, an interim city manager, and an acting city manager? Okay? And also in terms of what their authority is, and we've seen one example, but we've had Gary Hampton, I think, was acting city manager,
He played at it, yeah.
and, and Sue is interim city manager. I think Sarah was interim city manager, I think. Okay, so I'm just curious, and I saw this as an opportunity to ask the question.
All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to this item? Okay, we will close the public comment. Do you want to share, Mr. Petrolakis, difference between acting, interim, and?
City manager, we know that what that is, right? That's kind of the main permanent city manager that is appointed by the city council. So, the difference between an acting city manager and an interim city manager is sort of one of, it can be one of time and also one of whether there's a person in the position of city manager or not, right? So an interim city manager is appointed usually when there's a vacancy in the city manager's slot. And so and it implies that it's going to be for a longer amount of time. An acting city manager, sometimes if a city manager goes away for a week's vacation, somebody on the staff will be appointed the acting city manager, for example. It can be a longer term appointment also, but usually when, I think we had acting city managers when the interim city manager was off on a medical, for example. So there's somebody who fills the position that's still in the position of city manager or interim city manager. And if it's a longer term appointment, that would be an acting city manager. Is that clear enough, or?
Crystal.
I wasn't ready, so I could do better next time.
So, for the sake of this item, we want the sensitivity of getting all the papers done within a time constraint, and each position holds a higher value of how much you can spend up to, and was it 20 or 25,000? It's not going to get anything done, and that's not how we're going to serve people. So this is having to kind of circumvent all of that to make it, and we should put every title in there under the sun, just in case it has to be Nick, but anyway. What is the will of council?
And it's just for this item. It's
Just for
just
that.
for, so you're aware, for the housing
To
loan.
facilitate first-time home buyers. What is the will?
I'm going to motion to approve it, but can I have a comment?
No. Okay, go ahead.
Just for Ms. Figueroa, she had to put these items up here tonight. Listen, this stuff isn't easy. HUD gives you this set of guidelines that aren't really guidelines, and then you got to go pick all these parameters and set this stuff in motion. And I just hope the public recognizes your hard work and your dedication. And I just want you to know it doesn't go unnoticed, because if you read our HUD audit report and you read the grand jury report that got released a week and a half ago, you'll know that our poor Jennifer Figueroa in the housing department is still trying to clean up a mess and work outside the box to put programs like this forward for first-time buyers and so forth. So thank you. Please know that we know you're working overtime down there, and we appreciate it. Motion to approve 10B.
Second.
Okay, and thank you, Ron, for being persistent on this topic. All right, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram? Yes. Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moniz?
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. Thank you and good night. Okay, city manager's already done. Council member comments, announcements, and future items? No? 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 I would say that we all recognize that firefighters took 2 down recently as well, and that was a horrific situation. So we all are cautious that public safety is one of those jobs that people just forget how dangerous it can be, and for all the wrong reasons you can be going to just a fire and get killed just because. All right, we have closed session.
Yes, we have 13A, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, California Government Code 549569D2, potential cases 2, and 13B, threat to public services, public facilities, critical infrastructure controls, critical infrastructure information relating to cybersecurity, California Government Code 54957A1, consultation with City Attorney George Petrolakis, IT Director Nick Showalter, and security consultants.
All right, and we will report out should there be something. All right, we are back and there's nothing to report out, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.